Daniel Carter never believed in aliens, even after working with them for 2 years. As an ex-military engineer, his job on the alien planet Virilia was simple: help build defense systems and mind his own business. Aliens were strange, but he didn't care. He just wanted to finish his contract and go home to Earth. That was until the day she walked into his workshop. Daniel looked up from his desk, holding a metal tool in one hand. Standing in front of him was an alien woman unlike any he had seen before. Her skin shimmered like violet silk, her silver eyes glowing softly. Her long, dark hair fell down her back, and she wore a flowing black robe that hugged her tall, slender figure. She stared at him with a calm expression, but there was something behind her eyes. Fear, desperation. "Daniel Carter?" she asked softly. "Yeah," Daniel replied, narrowing his eyes. "Who's asking?" "My name is Tikeri. I need your help." Daniel sighed. "I'm not a mercenary. If you need help fixing something, file a request." She shook her head. "It's not that kind of help." "Then what?" Daniel raised an eyebrow, already annoyed. "I need to bond with you." Daniel blinked. For a moment, he thought he misheard her. "You need to what?" "Bond," she repeated. "Our souls, our minds. It is a sacred ritual among my people." Daniel burst out laughing. "Okay, good one. Who put you up to this? Was it Griggs from security? This is some prank, right?" Tikeri didn't laugh. Her expression remained serious. "This is no joke." Daniel's laughter faded. "You're serious?" "Yes," she said softly. "I know it sounds strange, but bonding is necessary for both of us." Daniel stood up, towering over her. "Look, lady, I'm not interested in alien rituals. I don't even know you. Whatever this is, I'm not the guy you're looking for." Her eyes flickered with sadness, but she nodded. "I understand." Without another word, she turned and left, disappearing into the crowded streets outside. Daniel shook his head. Weird. That night, Daniel sat in his small apartment, sipping a cup of coffee. His mind kept drifting back to Tikeri's face. There was something in her eyes that haunted him, but he pushed the thought away. Aliens were always dramatic. Suddenly, his computer beeped loudly. Daniel frowned and opened the encrypted message. "Refusal is dangerous. They will come for you." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. What the hell? Before he could think, there was a knock at the door. It was almost midnight. Who could it be? Slowly, he walked to the door, hand on his sidearm. He opened it slightly and froze. Terry stood there, her face pale, her body trembling. Blood trickled down her forehead, and her robe was torn. "They know you declined," she whispered. "Now we're both in danger." Daniel pulled her inside quickly and locked the door. Who knows what's going on? Her silver eyes locked with his. "The Dominion. They're coming for you, Daniel. Because of me." "Who the hell are the Dominion?" "The ones who want me dead," she whispered. "And now, they want you too." Before Daniel could process her words, the lights flickered and died. The room was swallowed in darkness. His military instincts kicked in. He grabbed his sidearm, pressing his back against the wall. "Stay quiet," he whispered to Tikeri. Through the window, Daniel saw dark figures moving silently through the streets. Their glowing red eyes scanned every building, every corner. "Tikeri," Daniel whispered, "what did you drag me into?" "I'm sorry," she whispered back, her voice trembling. "But now, we have to survive." Daniel gritted his teeth. His quiet life was over. Whatever this was, it was just beginning. Daniel's heartbeat pounded in his ears as he peeked through the narrow crack of his apartment window. Outside, the night was unnaturally silent. The usual hum of alien vehicles and distant chatter of the marketplace had vanished, replaced by an eerie stillness that sent chills down his spine. Tikeri clutched her side, breathing heavily. Her violet skin shimmered faintly in the dim light, and the gash on her forehead glistened with fresh blood. She leaned against the wall, her eyes wide with fear. "Who are they?" Daniel whispered sharply, barely audible over the pounding in his chest. "They are called the Dominion," Terry replied softly, wincing in pain. "An ancient enemy of my people. Merciless hunters. They know I came to you, and now they see you as a threat." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Why me? I don't even know you." Her eyes softened. "It doesn't matter. They believe you do, and that's enough." Suddenly, a red laser scanned the window, forcing Daniel to duck down quickly. He could hear faint footsteps, precise and calculated, getting closer. "We need to move," he whispered urgently. "They'll find us." Terry nodded. "But we can't just run blindly. They'll corner us." Daniel's mind raced. He was trained for combat, for war, but nothing prepared him for this, being hunted by something he didn't even understand. He glanced at Tikeri, realizing that whatever mess he was in now, she was the key to surviving it. "Is there another way out?" he asked. "The maintenance hatch," she whispered, "in the back." Without wasting another second, Daniel guided her through the small, dark apartment. Every step felt like an eternity, each creak of the floorboards echoing louder than it should. His instincts screamed at him to hurry, but haste could be their downfall. Suddenly, a loud bang rattled the door. "They're here," Tikeri breathed, panic in her voice. "Move," Daniel urged, pushing her towards the hatch. The door shook violently as the Dominion tried to force their way in. Daniel grabbed a small pack, slung it over his shoulder, and followed Tikeri into the narrow maintenance tunnel. He pulled the hatch closed behind him, just as the door to his apartment splintered open. They crawled through the cramped tunnel, the air thick with dust. Daniel could hear faint voices behind them, cold, mechanical voices that sent shivers down his spine. "Faster," he whispered. They emerged into a dark alley behind the apartment complex. The cold night air hit them like a wave, and Daniel's sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. No sign of the Dominion yet, but he knew they wouldn't be far behind. "This way," Terry whispered, leading him through the maze of narrow streets and hidden pathways. Daniel's mind was racing. Who were these Dominion? What did they want? And why was this alien woman risking her life to involve him? They reached an old, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Daniel pushed the rusted door open and guided Tikeri inside. She collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily. "We can't stay here long," Daniel warned. "They'll track us." "I know," she whispered, wiping blood from her brow. "But I need to tell you the truth." Daniel crouched beside her. "Yeah, that would be nice." Terry met his gaze, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. "The bonding ritual I spoke of, it's not just a cultural tradition. It's ancient magic, genetic science, a connection that gives strength, speed, and more." Daniel frowned. "Magic? Really?" "Call it what you will," she replied. "But the Dominion fears it. They know that if I bond with you, it will awaken something powerful within both of us, something that could stop them." Daniel shook his head. "Why me? There are billions of humans." "You're not just any human, Daniel," she said softly. "Your mind, your spirit, it's different. I saw it the moment I found you." Daniel chuckled bitterly. "Lucky me." Suddenly, the faint sound of footsteps echoed outside. Daniel's eyes hardened. "They're here." Without thinking, he pulled Tikeri to her feet and moved towards the back door. But as he reached for the handle, the wall beside him exploded inward, sending him flying across the room. Dazed, Daniel blinked through the dust. Standing in the hole where the wall used to be were two figures, tall, armored in black, with glowing red eyes. Dominion soldiers. Terry raised her hand, and a faint purple glow surrounded her fingers. She sent a wave of energy towards the soldiers, but one of them deflected it easily, advancing towards her. Daniel gritted his teeth. No one was going to take him down without a fight. He lunged at the closest soldier, dodging a strike and landing a punch that sent the soldier stumbling. But the Dominion were fast, too fast. The second soldier grabbed Daniel from behind, pinning him. "Daniel!" Takeri screamed. Suddenly, Daniel felt a surge of strength. Without thinking, he twisted free, grabbing the soldier's weapon and knocking him out cold. The other soldier turned to Takeri, but Daniel shot him with a quick blast, sending him crashing through the wall. Takeri stared at him in shock. "How did you?" "I don't know," Daniel panted, "but we need to go." As they fled into the night, Daniel couldn't shake one thought. Whatever this bond was, it had already begun. Daniel's muscles burned as he sprinted through the narrow streets of Virilia, pulling Takeri along behind him. His mind raced faster than his feet. The sudden burst of strength he had experienced back in the warehouse haunted him. How had he, a normal human, overpowered a Dominion soldier so easily? The cold night air stung his lungs, but he didn't slow down. Neither did the questions swirling in his head. Finally, they ducked into an abandoned service tunnel beneath the city. Daniel pressed his back against the cold, metal wall, trying to catch his breath. Takeri leaned beside him, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "What's happening to me?" Daniel demanded, his voice a low growl. "I'm just a guy. An engineer. Now I'm throwing around alien soldiers like ragdolls." Takeri's expression softened. "It's starting." "What's starting?" he snapped. "The bond," she replied quietly. "Even without the full ritual, the connection between us has already begun." Daniel let out a bitter laugh. "No offense, but I didn't sign up for this cosmic soulmate deal." Takeri sighed. "It's not about romance, Daniel. It's about survival." He narrowed his eyes, then started explaining. She nodded, knowing there was no more time for secrets. "Thousands of years ago," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "my people, the Virilians, discovered something extraordinary, a way to bond our essence with another being. Not just emotionally, but physically and mentally. This bond enhanced strength, speed, and even perception. But there was one catch." Daniel leaned in, listening intently despite himself. "The bond could only reach its full potential when shared with someone truly different," she continued. "Another species, another mind, another soul." Daniel blinked. "Wait, are you saying your people can't bond with each other?" Takeri shook her head. "No. Bonding with another Virilian creates a weak connection. It's temporary, fleeting. But bonding with another species, it unlocks unimaginable power. For centuries, my ancestors believed it to be a myth, until they tried it with a human." Daniel's eyes widened. "A human? When?" "Long before humans knew aliens existed," Takeri replied. "A human accidentally found his way to Virilia through a wormhole. My ancestors bonded with him out of desperation during a war with the Dominion. Together, they ended the war, but at a great cost." Daniel frowned. "What cost?" "The bond killed him," she whispered. "The human body wasn't ready. The strain was too much. Since then, no one dared try again." Daniel's heart pounded. "So why me?" "Because you're different, Daniel," Takeri said softly. "You survived Earth's wars, its chaos, its struggles. You adapted. You endured. I knew the moment I saw you that you were the one." Daniel scoffed. "Yeah. Well, your Dominion buddies don't seem too happy about it." "They're not my buddies," she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "The Dominion fears the bond because it can destroy them. It's why they hunted my ancestors. It's why they hunt me." Daniel's head spun. "So let me get this straight. You want me to bond with you, unlock some hidden power, and fight off an alien empire?" Takeri held his gaze. "Yes." Daniel let out a long breath. "You sure know how to pick 'em." Suddenly, a faint peeping sound echoed through the tunnel. Takeri's face paled. "They've tracked us." Daniel's instincts kicked in. "We need to move." But as they turned, a Dominion soldier stepped into the tunnel, blocking their escape. His glowing red eyes locked onto them, and a low mechanical voice echoed through the space. Target acquired. Before Daniel could react, the soldier lunged forward. Daniel dodged, barely avoiding a lethal strike. He countered with a punch, but the soldier caught his fist midair. "You are no match for us, human," the soldier sneered. Daniel gritted his teeth. "Wanna bet?" Suddenly, he felt that strange surge again, energy rushing through his veins, sharpening his senses. With a growl, he twisted free, landing a powerful kick that sent the soldier stumbling. Takeri's eyes widened. The bond. It's growing. Daniel didn't have time to process her words. Another soldier appeared, aiming a weapon at Takeri. Without thinking, Daniel grabbed a piece of metal pipe from the ground and hurled it with precision. The pipe struck the soldier's weapon, knocking it away. "We can't fight them all," Takeri shouted. "We need to escape." Daniel nodded, grabbing her hand and pulling her through the tunnel. The Dominion's shouts echoed behind them, but Daniel pushed forward, his newfound strength propelling him faster than he thought possible. As they emerged from the tunnel, the city lights flickered in the distance. Daniel knew they couldn't run forever. "Takeri," he said, breathing heavily, "if we're going to survive this, I need to know everything. No more secrets." She nodded. "Agreed. But first, we need allies." Daniel smirked despite the danger. "Got any friends who aren't trying to kill us?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "A few." As they disappeared into the night, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever this bond was, it had already started changing him. And there was no turning back now. The night stretched endlessly as Daniel and Takeri darted through the maze of alleyways and forgotten streets. The distant hum of Dominion drones echoed above, scanning, searching. Every step felt like a gamble, every shadow a potential threat. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears, but his mind stayed sharp. Survival was second nature to him now. War had taught him that much. Yet something gnawed at him, the growing power surging through his body. It felt alien, raw, untamed. It wasn't natural, and that terrified him. Takeri, limping beside him, glanced up. "We're close," she whispered. "Close to what?" Daniel whispered back. "To help," she replied cryptically. Daniel shook his head. "You sure they're not just more people who want me dead?" Takeri smirked faintly. "No promises." Before Daniel could retort, a bright red beam sliced through the air, barely missing them. They dove behind a metal container as a Dominion drone hovered above, scanning the area with its glowing sensors. "Damn it," Daniel muttered. "We're out of time." Takeri closed her eyes for a moment. The air around her shimmered as she concentrated. Daniel watched in awe as her body seemed to vanish from the drone's sensors. "Cloaking?" Daniel whispered, impressed. "Temporary," she replied. "Now or never." Without hesitation, they sprinted towards an old, rusted door hidden behind a crumbling wall. Takeri punched a code into the panel, and the door slid open just as the drone's sensors flickered back to life. They slipped inside, the door sealing shut behind them with a soft hiss. Daniel leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You really like secrets, huh?" Takeri gave him a tired smile. "It keeps me alive." The dimly lit corridor stretched ahead, silent and eerie. Daniel followed Takeri through the winding path until they reached a large metal door. She pressed her hand against a scanner, and the door opened to reveal a vast underground bunker. Daniel's eyes widened. Inside, dozens of aliens moved about. Virillians, humans, and even species Daniel didn't recognize. They worked on weapons, technology, and battle plans. It was a hidden base, buzzing with quiet determination. A tall, imposing Virillian with sharp features and piercing amber eyes approached them. His dark armor gleamed under the dim lights. "Takeri," he greeted, his voice deep and steady. "You brought him." Daniel raised an eyebrow. not thrilled to see me. The Virelian chuckled softly. I'm General Varric. And trust me, human, we've been waiting for you. Daniel frowned. Waiting for me? Great. Love being the center of attention. Takeri placed a hand on his arm. Varric leads the resistance against the Dominion. Resistance, huh? Daniel muttered. So, this is where you keep your secret weapons. Varric's eyes narrowed. No, Daniel. You are the weapon. Daniel rolled his eyes. Yeah, I keep hearing that. Care to explain why? Varric gestured for them to follow. He led them to a massive holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy, with flashing red zones marking Dominion-controlled areas. The Dominion isn't just hunting Takeri, Varric explained. They're hunting Hope. She's the last of the Eralith bloodline, a royal lineage believed to have died out centuries ago. Daniel blinked. Royal? Seriously? She didn't mention that. Takeri avoided his gaze. Varric continued. The Eralith were not just rulers. They were guardians of a power ancient and unmatched, the power unlocked through bonding with another species. The Dominion fears it because it could end their reign. Daniel rubbed his temples. So let me get this straight. Takeri's an alien princess with magic powers, and bonding with me turns us into some unstoppable duo. Varric nodded. Precisely. Daniel chuckled bitterly. Perfect. Just what I needed. Takeri stepped forward. It's not just about power, Daniel. The bond connects our minds, our strengths, our souls. Together, we can resist the Dominion's mind control, fight their advanced soldiers, and inspire others to rise. Daniel's eyes softened. And what if I say no? Varric's expression darkened. Then the Dominion wins. The weight of the choice pressed down on Daniel's shoulders. He never wanted to be a hero. Hell, he didn't even want to be here. But the thought of standing by while an entire galaxy suffered didn't sit right with him either. Great, Daniel muttered. Guess I'm in. Takeri smiled softly, relief washing over her face. Before they could celebrate, a loud alarm blared through the bunker. They found us, a soldier shouted. Varric's eyes hardened. Prepare for battle. Daniel's heart pounded. No rest for the wicked, huh? Takeri grabbed his hand. We'll face them together. As the bunker buzzed with activity, Daniel felt the bond between them grow stronger. Whatever was coming, he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't fighting alone anymore. Alarms blared through the underground bunker, a harsh, shrill sound that sent adrenaline surging through every soul within its walls. Daniel's fists clenched as he watched the chaos unfold. Soldiers scrambled for weapons, engineers shut down critical systems to prevent hacking, and medics prepared for the inevitable wounded. Takeri, Daniel hissed, turning to her. We're not ready for this. She met his gaze, her silver eyes glowing faintly. We never would be. But we don't have a choice now. General Varric barked orders to his soldiers. The Dominion will breach the outer perimeter within minutes. We hold them off as long as we can. Daniel swallowed hard. So what's the plan? Shoot until we run out of ammo. Varric's expression was grim. That will buy time, but not victory. The bond. He pointed at Daniel and Takeri. Is our only real chance. Daniel's heart pounded. I thought the bond thing was theoretical. Takeri shook her head. Not anymore. You've felt it already. The strength, the speed. It's the bond trying to form. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. What if I'm not ready? Takeri stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. Neither am I, but we're out of time. Varric nodded. We'll hold the line. You two, perform the ritual. Now. Daniel opened his mouth to protest, but Takeri took his hand gently. Please, she whispered. Trust me. He sighed. Let's do this. She led him to a quiet chamber deep within the bunker. The walls were smooth, glowing faintly with ancient symbols that pulsed with energy. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary room. Takeri knelt in the center, motioning for him to join her. Daniel hesitated, then followed. "The bond," she began, "is not just physical or mental. It's spiritual. We must open our minds, our memories, our very souls to each other." Daniel's brow furrowed. "You're telling me I have to let you into my head? All my secrets, my past?" "Yes," she replied softly, "and I will share mine." Daniel chuckled bitterly. "You might regret that." Carrie smiled faintly. "I doubt it." She placed her hands gently on his temples. Daniel tensed, but forced himself to relax. Slowly, the world around him faded. Suddenly, Daniel found himself standing on a battlefield. Not alien, human. Earth. Explosions rocked the ground, and soldiers screamed in agony. Daniel recognized the scene immediately, his past. He saw himself, younger, clutching a wounded comrade as bullets flew past. "No," Daniel whispered, "not this." But Carrie's voice echoed in his mind. "I need to see it, Daniel. Let me in." Reluctantly, he relived the moment he failed to save his friend, the moment that haunted him every night. Then the scene shifted. Now, Daniel stood in a grand palace, unlike anything he had ever seen. Carrie stood beside him, younger, innocent. She watched as her parents, Virelia's rulers, were betrayed and slaughtered by Dominion agents. Daniel felt her pain, her helplessness. She was just a child, unable to stop it. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "As am I," she replied. The visions faded, and they found themselves back in the chamber. But something was different. Daniel felt connected to her thoughts, her feelings, her fears, and he knew she felt the same from him. "It's done," Carrie whispered. Daniel stood, his muscles thrumming with energy. He felt stronger, sharper, as if every cell in his body had been awakened. Before he could process it fully, the ceiling shook violently. The Dominion had breached the bunker. Carrie grabbed his hand. "Let's go." As they reached the main hall, the sight was grim. Dominion soldiers poured in, their red eyes glowing menacingly. Resistance fighters were outnumbered, their defenses crumbling. Daniel's eyes hardened. Not today. He moved faster than he ever thought possible, dodging enemy fire with ease. His punches sent soldiers flying. Carrie fought beside him, her energy blasts precise and deadly. For the first time, they fought as one. Their minds connected, anticipating each other's moves. General Varick, mid-battle, glanced at them and allowed himself a brief smile. "It's working," he muttered. Suddenly, a towering Dominion commander entered the fray, his armor thicker, his weapons deadlier. He locked eyes with Daniel and Carrie. "You cannot win," the commander growled. Daniel smirked. "Wanna bet?" The commander lunged at Daniel, but Daniel sidestepped with inhuman speed, landing a powerful kick. The commander staggered but retaliated swiftly, pinning Daniel to the ground. Carrie screamed and unleashed a wave of energy, but the commander absorbed it with his shield. Daniel gritted his teeth. Not done yet. With a roar, he tapped into the bond's full potential, pushing the commander off him. As the commander charged again, Daniel and Carrie locked eyes. "Together," she whispered. They combined their powers, forming a blast of energy that shattered the commander's armor, sending him crashing through the bunker wall. The remaining Dominion soldiers hesitated. Varick seized the moment, pushed them back. The resistance fought harder, forcing the Dominion to retreat. As silence fell over the battered bunker, Daniel sat down, breathing heavily. Terry knelt beside him. "Are you all right?" He grinned. "Never better." Varick approached them. "The bond. It's stronger than I imagined. You two might actually stand a chance." Daniel chuckled. "No pressure, right?" Takeri smiled softly. "This is just the beginning." And deep down, Daniel knew she was right. The aftermath of the battle left the bunker in ruins. Smoke filled the air, and the faint hum of damaged machinery echoed through the halls. Soldiers tended to the wounded, and the tension hung thick in the atmosphere. Daniel stood in the center, his breathing heavy, heart pounding. The surge of power from the bond still thrummed through his veins, unfamiliar yet intoxicating. Across from him, Terry steadied herself, her silver eyes flickering with exhaustion and determination. "We bought time," General Varick said, approaching them with a grave expression. "But not much." Daniel rubbed his temples. "So, what now?" "Keep running. Keep fighting until we're all dead." Varick shook his head. "No, it's time to take the fight to them." Daniel blinked. "What?" Takeri stepped forward. "He's right. The Dominion won't stop until we're all crushed. We need to strike first." Daniel let out a bitter chuckle. "Great. So we're supposed to take on an entire alien empire with a handful of rebels and some leftover blasters." Varick's eyes hardened. "We have something they don't." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. The bond." Takeri nodded. "Exactly." Daniel sighed, pacing the room. "You keep saying that like it's a magic bullet. But we barely survived that last fight." "It wasn't a full fight," Varick countered. "The Dominion commander you faced was strong, but he was testing you. Testing the bond. Their real power. It's still out there." Daniel stopped, turning to face him. "And where exactly is out there?" Varick pressed a button on his wrist device, and a holographic map of the galaxy appeared. A red marker blinked ominously over a distant fortified planet. "Dracos Prime," Varick said grimly. "The Dominion's stronghold. Their command center. Everything flows from there." Daniel frowned. "And you want us to just walk in there and say, 'Hi, we're here to overthrow your empire'? Sounds suicidal." Tahiri's voice was soft but resolute. "Not if we use the bond to its full potential." Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "And how do we do that?" Varick's expression softened. "There's something we haven't told you." "Of course there is," Daniel muttered under his breath. Carrie stepped closer. "The bond isn't just about strength and speed. It's about connection. Connection to the ancient energy of the universe itself." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You mean like the Force?" Takeri gave a small smile. "Not exactly, but close. The bond can bend reality, reshape matter, and rewrite fate." Daniel froze. "Wait, you're saying we can literally change reality?" Varick nodded. "But only if the bond is complete. Right now, you're connected, but not fully. The final step is dangerous." Daniel chuckled bitterly. "Of course it is. What's the catch?" Thierry's voice was barely a whisper. "It could kill us." Daniel blinked. "Awesome. Love that." A loud beeping interrupted them. A scout rushed into the room, panting. "They're mobilizing their fleet. They know we're planning something." Varick clenched his fists. "We don't have time." Daniel took a deep breath. "Fine. Let's do this." Hours later, the Resistance's remaining ships flew through the vast emptiness of space, heading straight for Dracos Prime. Inside the lead ship, Daniel sat across from Takeri, the tension between them palpable. "Any last-minute advice?" Daniel asked, trying to lighten the mood. Takeri smirked. "Don't die." Daniel chuckled. "Fair enough." The ship jolted as they entered the Dominion's airspace. Alarms blared, and enemy ships swarmed around them. "Here we go," Daniel muttered, grabbing his weapon. The Resistance fleet fought bravely, weaving through enemy fire, but the Dominion's defenses were overwhelming. One by one, their ships were shot down. Daniel and Takeri fought side by side, taking down enemy soldiers as they pushed towards the command center. But the deeper they went, the stronger the Dominion's forces became. "We can't hold them off forever," Daniel grunted, firing at an approaching soldier. Takeri nodded. "We need to finish the bond. Now." Daniel's eyes widened. "Here, in the middle of a war zone?" "It's the only way," she insisted. Reluctantly, Daniel took her hand. They closed their eyes, focusing on each other. The chaos around them faded as they were pulled into a shared consciousness. Memories, fears, hopes, and dreams intertwined. Daniel felt Tikeri's pain, her loss, her determination. She felt his guilt, his strength, his love for humanity. Suddenly, a blinding light enveloped them. When they opened their eyes, everything had changed. Daniel floated above the ground, energy crackling around him. Tikeri's form shimmered with ethereal light. The Dominion soldiers hesitated, fear in their eyes. Daniel smirked. "Yeah, you should run." With a wave of his hand, the soldiers were thrown back. Tikeri manipulated the energy around them, creating shields and weapons from thin air. They stormed the command center, confronting the Dominion's leader, a towering figure shrouded in darkness. "You think you can defeat me?" the leader sneered. Daniel and Tikeri shared a glance. "We don't think," Daniel replied. "We know." The final battle was intense, but the bond gave them an edge. Every attack from the Dominion leader was countered with precision. Every move Daniel and Tikeri made was in perfect sync. Finally, with a combined blast of energy, they shattered the Dominion leader's defenses, ending his reign once and for all. The Dominion forces, leaderless and broken, surrendered. As the dust settled, Daniel looked at Tikeri, a weary smile on his face. "So, what now?" Tikeri smiled softly. "Now, we rebuild." Daniel chuckled. "Together, together," she replied. And as the galaxy began to heal, Daniel realized that sometimes the most unexpected bonds could change the universe forever. The smoke of battle had long since cleared, but the echoes of war still lingered in the air. Across the galaxy, the Dominion's defeat sent ripples of change through every star system. No longer bound by fear, countless species began to rebuild what had been lost. Yet, amidst the flickering hope of a new dawn, two figures stood at the heart of it all: Daniel Carter and Tikeri Erelith. Daniel stared out over the sprawling city of Virilia, now free from Dominion control. The skyline was a mixture of ancient architecture and modern technology, scared from war but resilient. His reflection in the glass window revealed weary eyes, but a faint smirk played on his lips. "Penny for your thoughts." Tikeri's soft voice pulled him from his trance. He turned to see her, radiant as ever, though exhaustion dulled the glow in her silver eyes. Even now, after everything, her presence was calming. "Just wondering how a guy like me ended up here," Daniel replied with a chuckle. "One minute, I'm fixing machines on Earth, and the next, I'm toppling alien empires with an alien princess." Tikeri smiled, though a hint of sadness flickered across her face. "I never wanted to drag you into this." Daniel shook his head. "I know. But if you hadn't, a lot of people wouldn't have made it, including me." The bond between them still pulsed faintly, a connection that transcended words. They could feel each other's emotions, thoughts, even memories. It was strange, intimate, and powerful. "I'm not sure what happens next," Daniel admitted. "Saving the galaxy wasn't exactly on my to-do list." Carrie walked to his side, her gaze distant. "The galaxy is free, but it's fragile. There's so much to rebuild, alliances to form, trust to earn back." "Sounds like a lot of work," Daniel teased. She chuckled softly. "It is." Silence settled between them, comfortable but charged with unspoken questions. Finally, Daniel asked the one that had been gnawing at him. "What about us? The bond. What does it mean now that the war's over?" Tikeri's eyes softened. "The bond isn't tied to war, Daniel. It's tied to us." "Us," he echoed, the word feeling foreign but right. Before she could respond, the door slid open and General Varric entered. His stern expression was softened by a rare smile. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said gruffly. Daniel smirked. "Only a little." Varric nodded, unfazed. "We've secured the remaining Dominion outposts. Their forces are scattered. Some are surrendering, others not so much. Tikari's expression darkened. There will always be those who resist peace. Varric sighed. True, but for now, we have breathing room. Daniel folded his arms. So what's the next move, General? Varric glanced between them. We need leaders, symbols. People look to you too. You didn't just defeat the Dominion, you inspired hope. Daniel scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. I'm not really the symbol of hope type. Terry chuckled. You might not have a choice. Varric's tone softened. Stay. Help us rebuild. Train the next generation. Daniel's mind raced. Stay. Here. He thought about Earth, the familiar sky, the smell of rain, the life he left behind. But that life felt distant now. His place, his purpose, had shifted. Give us some time to think, Tikari answered for both of them. Varric nodded. Of course. As he left, Daniel let out a long breath. Leader of a galactic rebellion. Yeah, didn't see that coming. Tikari smiled gently. We've been through worse. Daniel chuckled. True. Suddenly, a thought struck him. What if we find them? Tikari frowned. Find who? He turned to her, eyes serious. The others. Humans. If I could bond with you, maybe there are others like me. Maybe they're out there, waiting. Her eyes widened. You think there could be more? Daniel shrugged. The galaxy's big. Humans are stubborn. I wouldn't be surprised. Tikari's expression shifted from surprise to determination. Then let's find them. Daniel grinned. Partners. Always, she whispered. Months passed, and the legend of Daniel Carter and Tikari Erelith grew. Together, they traveled across the galaxy, seeking out hidden colonies, lost ships, and forgotten worlds. Every human they found added to their strength. Every alliance they forged strengthened the fragile peace. Yet, even as they built a new future, shadows lingered. On a distant, desolate world, deep within a hidden fortress, a lone figure watched the stars. Clad in black armor, their crimson eyes gleamed with malice. The bond may have won this battle, the figure whispered, but the war is far from over. As Daniel and Tikari ventured into the unknown, they knew one truth: the fight for freedom never truly ends. But together, they were ready for whatever came next.